Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have the latest from the live radar, run through the weather warnings as we do have yellow rain warnings issued for western regions, as we are going to see some torrential rain over the next 24 to 48 hours. We're seeing a very strong southerly flow at the moment, flooding in very warm humid air, but we're also seeing low pressure pushing in from the west, and that combination is going to fuel some really hefty rain and even some thunderstorms in places as we head through Tuesday night into Wednesday and even into Thursday as well. Now further eastwards, where we've still got a little bit of higher pressure around, it could stay drier at times, and we could even see 20 plus degrees through some regions on Wednesday. So actually pretty summer-like out there, but for most and eventually all, especially into Thursday, it is going to be pretty wet out there. We'll look at that in detail in the latest UKV and also on the Rome runs, looking at that very torrential rain moving in. And then we'll finish the video by having a look at the longer range charts, as it does look like we're going to see a real autumnal pattern developing for the end of this week into next week, as we start to see a pretty dominant westerly flow with a fairly flat jet stream. West to southwesterly winds oscillating between small ridges of high pressure and larger lows. It is going to be classic autumnal conditions. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe. And remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now if you start on the live radar, you can see the very heavy rain is moving in at the moment. It's a combination between low pressure out to our west and to our east, higher pressure bringing up southerly winds, and that warm humid air mixing with instability that is fueling this very heavy rain. Now you can see mostly it is just heavy rain, but there is the risk, as you can see here a little bit out in the channel, of some thunderstorms taking off, and that does become a bit more apparent through tomorrow as well. So yeah, it does look like it will be mostly rain, but don't get caught out by a few thunderstorms taking off, potentially embedded within the larger areas of rain. Now you can see it is more dominant further westwards, it's closer to the lower pressure, but as the low pressure nudges in, especially through Wednesday evening, we are going to see the heavy rain even in those eastern regions, which actually do look fairly warm through Wednesday. So the real heavy rain is now arriving, and for some western regions, West Midlands, Wales especially, it could dominate over the next 24 hours, and I wouldn't be surprised to see more reports of some flooding. Now do look at the temperatures at the moment. You can see it is actually very mild out there. You can see where it's raining, it's a little bit counterintuitive. Normally we'd expect the cooler temperatures to be associated with where it's raining, but actually the further southwards and westwards you go, the milder it is, because that is where the warm air is coming from. As I said though, when we get that right combination tomorrow, warm air mixed with slightly dry conditions, it'll be very warm in the east and we'll start to see some oranges develop. But you can see lots of yellows around 8 p.m. as I'm recording this. Very warm indeed. You can see out to our east where the higher pressure is sitting, it's drawing in cold air from the Arctic and it's much colder. But for western and northwestern Europe especially, it is going very warm indeed for the time of year. Now, if you go over to the latest UKV, you can see we have a rain warning issued through this evening, and it's from 6 p.m. until midday tomorrow. Spells of heavy rain on Tuesday night and Wednesday may lead to some travel disruption and flooding in places. Again, for southwest England, West Midlands, much of Wales, into the northwest of England. Again, we're looking at 10 to 20 millimetres quite widely. There could be considerable more amount if we do see those heavy thundery pulses move through, maybe even 50 to 80 millimetres in 6 hours. And you can see again additional hazard of lightning, medium impact and low likelihood. Now as we head in tomorrow, we've still got that warning. I suspect that it could be updated and perhaps extended into the evening from the looks of the latest runs, but that will be probably up for tomorrow morning's update. But we've got another update here for southern parts of Northern Ireland for 6 hours through the morning, again for some more heavy rain, 20 to 30 millimetres widely, maybe 50 to 80 millimetres. Now, if we do go over to the latest UKV, if we do run through this evening, you can see the very heavy rain is arriving. We're going to see widely rain tonight, but it's going to be heaviest in that yellow warning region, especially in the west. As it pushes in overnight tonight, it will slowly fade away into northern areas, and it will be slightly drier as we wake up in the morning. Still very heavy pulses around and maybe even some thunderstorms developing, just not quite as widespread. But for those areas in Wales, West Midlands, still looks like it will be raining all morning. As we progress into the afternoon, more of these real heavy pulses of rain push northwards, and into the afternoon you can see the combination of low pressure, warm air, thunderstorms, heavy showers in the west. The east, look at that, some slightly dry conditions and some hazy sunshine. Temperatures 20, 21, even a few models showing 22 degrees. Exceptional for mid-October. As we push beyond that, you can see, though, the heavy rain and storms start to push eastwards through Wednesday evening, and even those areas that were very warm and dry through much of Wednesday will be seeing the heavy rain progress into Thursday. Now, fortunately, this is the signs that that rain is now moving away, and by Thursday morning, most should be clear of the heavy rain. Into the afternoon, it's much drier, but it will be turning slightly fresher, still above average, as we aren't pulling in anything particularly cold yet, but returning closer to our average as we do start to see a westerly flow develop. And then you can see as we head into the weekend, proper westerly winds arrive, and you start to see some heavy rain, a cold front pushing through there, and you can start to see it is going to go much more Atlantic driven, with lots of these walls of rain likely arriving as we head into next week especially. If you look at the upper air temperatures, you can see it is exceptionally warm as we head into Wednesday. Upper air temperatures up towards 15, maybe even 16 degrees at 850 HPA, which is summer-like air masses. That sort of air mass in midsummer, under higher pressure, 30 degrees is possible, but not in mid-October. You can see, though, into Thursday, we slowly lose that very warm air, but it still is relatively mild, and then slowly start to see much colder air masses moving in into next week, oscillating with much colder air masses. I'll emphasise that, because there will be warm air around, just won't be dominant, as we do start to see that westerly flow next week. Now, do look at the max temperatures. You can see overnight tonight is actually going to be very mild, and temperatures are actually not going to drop away all too much, perhaps even rising in the southwest. As we head into Wednesday afternoon, areas under the rain, 15, 16 degrees, but feeling pretty muggy and humid. In the east, though, 19, 20 degrees pretty widely, could even get a couple of degrees higher. 21 or 22 is very possible. Overnight temperatures will not drop away all too much. Look at that, midnight, still 16 or 17 degrees. That's summer-like overnight temperatures, not what we'd expect in autumn at all. And you can see into Thursday, still maybe nudging 16 to 18, just nowhere near as warm, and that is because that very warm air is getting slowly pushed away. Into Friday, it will still be fairly mild, but temperatures dropping away further, maybe 15 to 17, and the same can be said on to Saturday, again into the low teens, as we start seeing the much fresher air moving in. Don't expect it to be cold at all. There will still be plenty of milder air masses around, just nowhere near as dominant as it is at the moment, and it will be very changeable. Could these sort of warmer and colder air masses may only last for 12 hours or so before getting pushed away. Now, to go over to the Rome run now, just to look in detail at the heavy rain that we've got coming up over the coming hours. You can see it is arriving at the moment, looking torrential through this evening. Even eastern areas are going to see some rain, but it will clear by the morning, and then it's really focused where we've got that yellow warning. You can see why I think it should be extended into the afternoon, as we can see another big pulse of rain moves in around the early afternoon, even some thunderstorms mixing in as it eventually slowly clears eastwards, and again could be some thunderstorms on that leading edge, and eventually it should clear by the early hours of Thursday. But you see lots of rain falling, and if we do look at the accumulated precipitation, this is just for the next 36 hours. You can see much of Western England into Wales, see between 30 to 50 millimetres. You can see why we've got that warning in force, a good inch to 2 inches of rain, and pretty much all areas on this graph seeing at least a quarter of an inch, at least 6 millimetres, if not half an inch, 12 millimetres or above. So lots of rain coming. You can see where the bullseye is going to be across those western regions, but pretty much widely we could see a good inch of rain, and it will all be dependent on those precipitation amounts and intensities, especially with the risk of storms in places. Now, if you head into the longer range, it's fairly a bog standard longer range forecast, not really too much to delve into, simply because it's looking flat and westerly into next week. And you can see the southerly wind is pushing in at the moment with low pressure nudging off the Atlantic, but it is going to go very westerly into next week. Low pressure is going to be sat across Iceland and southern Greenland, and it's just going to be westerly. There's no real deviations. Yes, a few slight southerly pushes at times with a bit more of a southwesterly tilt. That's just going to encourage slightly warmer air, but really it's just going to remain unsettled and westerly, maybe stormy at times, as some of these lows do really get going, but it doesn't look like there were any major direct strikes at this time. Again, just looks fairly flat and westerly, as I said, no real major deviations. Now, if you have a look at the latest GM, see what that is showing this evening. Again, it's broadly similar. That southerly wind pushing in. Eventually, a westerly flow arrives next week, and it's pretty much a bog standard westerly all the way out to day 10. If we look on the upper level winds, just a flat westerly wind coming straight in from northern Canada, directly over the top of us. So the jet stream is pretty much flat and directly over the top of us. We're going to be oscillating between cooler and warmer air masses and equally drier and wetter conditions. And if you finish by looking at the latest ECMWF, it is just coming out at the moment. We've got all the way out to day 10 now. Again, westerly flow arriving into next week. And again, bog standard westerly. Maybe a bit more high pressure building in at times. Maybe the jet stream slightly further northwards. But generally, it is exactly the same as the other runs. I've not seen the models agree like this in a while. Again, it looks pretty much exactly the same. No major deviations at all as we head into the final couple of weeks of the month. Now, if you look finally at the ensembles, again, exactly what we're expecting, dropping back towards average into next week. It will take a bit of time, maybe only really towards the early part of next week will we get back towards average. Precipitation up and down, and you see the upper air temperatures are oscillating above and below average, so don't expect any major warmer or colder spells, but there can be some decent days and some poor days mixed in. So again, bog standard conditions. And finally, if we look at the latest ECMWF ensembles, very similar, trending back towards average and then oscillating above and below average with moderate precipitation as we do head towards Halloween. So it's very eventful, the next sort of 36 to 48 hours, lots of very heavy rain, some thunderstorms and some very warm temperatures. But as we progress into the weekend and start of next week, it is going to be turning boring once again with a flat westerly flow, much more uneventful, and we will start to see very changeable conditions as we see a bog standard westerly flow. So anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.